That, of course, means only one thing, and on a day like today, it's great to have her. The author of the book, Battle for the Jewish State, How Israel and America Can Win, and today was a win. The vice president of the Davis Institute for Foreign Policy at the Heritage Foundation, Philadelphia's own Dr. Victoria Coates. Hello, my friend.
Well, hello, Rich. This day was a win.
And I want you to say hello to George Bochetto, a man I know you know, a big friend of the show and of the Italian-American community.
Great to be on with you, George.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Pleasure to speak with you as well.
And he's also a frustrated Eagles and Phillies fan. So the three of us together right now, we got a lot. Do you want to tell Dr. Coates what you were going to tell me about the Eagles?
Well, you know,
he's got some gossip for us, Dr. Coates. You want to hear
it?
Yeah,
I was at the Unico dinner this past Friday night. You know, that's the annual dinner where they raise all kinds of money for Italian students, scholarships and everything, outreach programs. Excuse me. And I ran into Sal Palantonio there. Sal Pal.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, he knows more about football in his little finger than I'll ever know. So I said, Sal, what's going on with the Eagles? And he leaned over and he said, George, football is an emotional game. You got to have the emotions or you're not going to do it. He says they're flat. There's no emotional buy-in there. He says they're in big trouble emotionally. That was his insight into it. And I said, wow, you're right. I mean, that really is what it's about. You go out there flat. It's like anything else. You know, if your heart's not in it, you don't do your best. Yeah. And that's his analysis.
What do you think, Doc?
Well, I mean, it's as good as an explanation as I've heard. So we'll just see what happens on Sunday and hope for the best.
I hope so.
I mean, the Phillies was just so heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking.
Oh, my goodness.
But L.A., I mean, you know, I knew as soon as we were going to L.A., we were in trouble. That's how I felt. I said, oh, man. And that stung, too, Dr. Coates, because my father-in-law is a big Dodgers fan. So, that really hurt.
Brutal.
But today was a big win on the world stage. The president, I woke up this morning and watching him there addressing the Israeli parliament. And just give us the overview of just how consequential today is.
Today was massive, and it's on several different levels. The first, and we've talked about this, was the president's ability when he was coming back in to identify the hostage issue as the stopper that had to get dislodged before we could get on to anything else, that it was just totally paralyzing Israeli decision-making. And he had seen during the Biden administration, President Biden trying to sort of make a big deal out of the hostages. At first, there were some deals that got done, so he would be talking about the hostages. That I think that Hamas dug in, realizing that the hostages were massive leverage for them. It wasn't so much of a success, so that they just stopped talking about them. It was like they stopped existing between late January and probably the election of 24. And then when the president was reelected, before he was inaugurated, he started talking about the hostages and saying, you know, this isn't bring them home. This is let them go. Mm-hmm. And made it a signature issue. And Hamas knew he was serious. And so we started getting back to deals earlier this year. But then I think he really believed that until we got them all out, we were never going to be able to make progress. And that became his focus. And by George, he did it.
He did it, and the question, of course, that the naysayers keep saying is, and I'll ask the question, will it hold?
Well, we don't know. And, you know, this is a great first step, and it is simply just a good thing to get the hostages home. That is inherently good for humanity. So even if everything goes to hell in a handbasket tomorrow, he did a great and good thing for Israel and for the world. So, you know, that should not be seen as contingent on anything that happens in the future. But then the other thing that happened today, which we haven't had before, is this remarkable display of unity of the mostly Muslim, but also a number of European and even our Canadian friends showed up at this, you know, very hastily put together conference in Sharm el-Sheikh in Egypt, and all signed off on the president's 20-point plan, which the Israelis have also signed off on. And there was even talk this morning that Prime Minister Netanyahu might go to that. I'm sort of glad he didn't. I think it would have just added more drama, and I think we can take this in steps. But the very fact that that was being considered was terrific progress. And so Egypt has offered to host a reconstruction conference, which I think is when the sort of brass tacks will be down in terms of who's going to pledge what. And I think you can expect the president to drive a pretty hard bargain, particularly with our Gulf friends, in terms of what they're willing to invest in Gaza. They've talked a lot about their commitment to the Palestinian cause and how important it is to them, so they can bring their big checkbooks with them and demonstrate that by, pledging the billions that are going to be needed to rebuild Gaza.
On that note, we have a clip of that. Let's play. This is cut number 3, Sean. President Trump announcing humanitarian aid is pouring into Gaza, and the people in this room paying for it. Cut number 3.
War in Gaza is over. Humanitarian aid is now pouring in, including hundreds of truckloads of food, medical equipment, and other supplies, much of it paid for by people in this room. Civilians are returning to their homes. The hostages are reuniting. I mean, it's beautiful. I'm just watching it backstage. The level of love and sorrow, I've never seen anything like it. It's amazing when you see they haven't seen their mother, their father. They haven't seen them in such a long time, and they lived in a tunnel, a very little tunnel, very deep. And the level of love is just incredible. It's a beautiful thing to see. In one sense, it's so horrible that it could have taken place, but in another sense, it's so beautiful to see. A new and beautiful day is rising, and now the rebuilding begins. The rebuilding is maybe going to be the easiest part. I think we've done a lot of the hardest part because the rest comes together. We all know how to rebuild, and we know how to build better than anybody in the world. I want to express my tremendous gratitude to the Arab and Muslim nations.
Dr. Coates, the New York Times is hitting him, saying he wasn't speaking about rebuilding Gaza. Well, what the hell did we just listen to?
What the New York Times means is a mystery. There were a lot of really hot takes today. We had Anthony Blinken claim that this was all just because of the wonderful work they had done in the last year and a half of the Biden presidency. That we had Christiane Amanpour come out and say that she thought that the hostages were probably better treated than normal civilians in Gaza. It just the derangement with which these people can't seem to give President Trump credit for anything. I mean, Hillary Clinton came out and gave him credit for it. So the rest of you can fall in line and just say this is a good thing for humanity. And yes, he's talking about Gaza. And yes, he's going to put a ton of pressure on our Gulf partners to, as I said, pony up. And that's going to be a big bill. I think a $5 billion investment would be the bare minimum that you would be looking at from those guys. And it's probably going to be a lot more over a lot more time. But again, they're the ones who profess to be the guardians of this Palestinian cause. So they should be the ones to pick up the bill, certainly not the United States.
Now, George is here today because we're talking about Columbus Day, Dr. Coates, and he's the man that fought to unbox Christopher Columbus in the city of Philadelphia.
I remember that well.
You remember that well when they put Columbus in a box?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Today, the parliament in Israel started chanting for the president today. This is cut 26, the Israeli parliament. What is the exact term for the Israeli parliament?
The Knesset.
The Knesset. This is cut 26.
Only a partial list, but it's enough to affirm what I've said time and again. Donald Trump is the greatest friend that the state of Israel has ever had in the White House.
It's a pretty big deal.
Unbelievable.
Right?
I mean, if that's not appreciation and gratitude, you'll never hear it. I mean, that's just something else. But and I'd like to ask the doctor about this too. The one thing that hope comes out of this is that Israel in particular, but other countries too, shore up their borders so that they never have another October 7th. I mean, what happened on October 7th was inhumane, obviously, but the guard was down. The fortifications weren't there. The readiness was not there. And I hope that we never have to go through another October 7th again, because it was just so inhumane and disastrous. And I hope whatever else happens in this peace deal that's happened and whatever developments, I hope we don't have to see another October 7th like that again. I know there are evil people out there, and I know there are people that would like to do another October 7th. But I'm hoping that everybody, all our leaders around the world, have learned that lesson. You can never let that happen to your citizenry.
What do you think, Dr. Coates?
No, I think that's a critical point. And we had one of our visiting fellows at Heritage, David Aronson, was at the Knesset today. He used to work for the Speaker of the Knesset, so he was there for the speech and gave us just some wonderful color about just the visceral love in that room of all those people across the entire Israeli political spectrum chanting for Trump. There was one protester, it was unrelated to Trump, who just was making a squawk, but everybody else, including Yair Lapid, the head of the Israeli opposition, had a really wonderful moment with Trump. And so if Trump deserves a peace prize, it might be because he brought all the political factions of Israel together, which I don't know that anyone else has done. But it's beautiful to see. And also an important point that he doesn't coddle Israel. And he certainly isn't in any way subservient to Israel. He treats Israel like a major ally, which they are, and an important country, and that they are their, to your point, George, they are their sovereign country. We are our sovereign country. We sometimes will disagree, and that is fine. And so we have our disagreements in private. We show a unified front in public. But that is a really important point, because it was his leverage over all the parties that got us to this happy day. And certainly in the roughly 20 years that separated 9/11 from October 7th, we saw some terrorist attacks in Paris, for example. There were some horrible ones, San Bernardino here, Orlando. But on this scale, it's different. And so hopefully it's at least 20 years until we have another one. And more hopefully, maybe that unity we saw out of the Muslim world on display in Egypt today, they come together, they admit they have a problem, and they take steps to reverse it.
Hey, Dr. Coates, I wanted to ask you a question, because I heard along the way that President Trump has done a shout-out to the Knesset and to the folks in Israel about pardoning Benjamin Netanyahu.
He did.
Now, is that something that's within their system? How would that work in Israel? How does that come about? We know how it comes about in this country, but how would it come about in Israel?
Well, how it comes about in Israel is that Israel is a parliamentary system, obviously, with the prime minister being the head of the government. The head of state is an appointed figure. In this case, his name is Bougie Herzog. He is a man of the left, but he is a good friend. I always see him when I go to Israel. But he's the head of state. So Herzog is the one who controls the pardons. So that's what the president said during his speech, as he was looking down at Bougie, and he said, "You should pardon Netanyahu." And
do
it
you
was
see that as
quite a moment.
Do you see that as a possibility? How do you view that?
10 hours ago, I would have said no. But as I said, the love for Trump right now, and make no mistake about it, Netanyahu is also extremely popular in Israel right now. And the fact that he is spending a disproportionate amount of his time in court defending from these corruption charges is a disservice to the country. And it's been going on for 5-6 years now. They can't find anything. It just is sort of a vendetta kind of case. And so I do think there would be a strong argument to be made in Israel that, given how hard the prime minister has worked, his service to the country since October 7th, maybe the man deserves a pardon.
I think he does, and you know, you can say what you want about how tenacious he's been, but nobody, and I mean nobody, worked harder for his people than Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. I mean, it was just every day he was pouring his own blood out to try to do whatever he could for his people and to get those hostages out. What a horrible, horrible fiasco he faced, and how magnificent he performed for years now.
You know, Dr. Coates, when you were in the White House as a Deputy National Security Advisor to President Trump, and you worked closely with Jared Kushner on the Abraham Accords, and to see Jared up there today with Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, and, you know, the President gave a lot of praise to Witkoff, obviously, and he said he had to bring in Jared's big brain. How much of the Abraham Accords now, going forward, because it seems like, and we've talked about this before, what I like about Trump here is he's saying to these countries, instead of killing each other, why don't you all make money together? What a novel idea, right,
Gee,
Dr. Coates? Instead
figure.
of killing each other, make money.
That's what he did with Pakistan and India.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, one of his 4 national security advisors during the first term, I worked for all 4 of them, said to me at one point, you know, our foreign policy is simple. We just want to get along with people and make a little money. And that was an entirely accurate assessment of the Trump doctrine, is let's get along, let's make some money, and then leave us alone, kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. So I think that is absolutely right.
I'd like to ask Dr. Coates one other question, because it's been such a ballyhooed thing, and I would really like to get the insight. So is the UN working these days? Is it broken? Did they play any role whatsoever in bringing about this peace plan? What's your assessment of that?
Yeah, they played a role, and it was a counterproductive one. The UN is beyond broken, George. What they managed to do last month when they had the United Nations General Assembly, when all the heads of state come to New York and clog up all the traffic and everything's a nightmare, what they did was trot a whole bunch of people who should have known better, some of whom were in that room today: Keir Starmer, Mark Carney, the Prime Minister of Canada, Starmer's the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Emmanuel Macron, the President of France, all went to the podium of the UN to formally recognize a Palestinian state, which just makes this problem worse. Hamas, it wrote them a thank you note. They issued a public statement saying, thank you, you have affirmed our desire to fight on. And meanwhile, the president, on the margins of the UN, certainly not through its official channels, was meeting with all those Arab heads of state who were in town, and said that that was where he and Secretary Rubio did all the hard diplomatic work to get to this 20-point plan that he could agree to, and the Israelis could agree to, and the Arabs could agree to. First time in history that's happened. That shows you just how feckless the UN is. They were doubling down on the failures of the past while the president was forging a path to the future.
Geez, when I was growing up, Dr. Coates, I mean, the UN was like so revered, and they were such a magnificent organization.
Halloween for UNICEF.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I mean, what happened?
We all had our little boxes to put coins in.
Hey, well, I'll tell you this. A very dear friend of mine, Jeff Bartos, has just been appointed and confirmed as the ambassador to the United Nations. And he is an amazing individual, and he's pro-Israel, as you could imagine. And if you ever get the chance, you should reach out to him, because President Trump has given him, you know what his primary charge is? Fix the UN.
Fix the UN. Well, I'll tell you what, George. I went to high school with Jeff Bartos. We went to Lancaster Country Day School together.
Oh, boy.
And, yes, and then he went to law school with my sister. And my husband, George, who is the chair of the Commonwealth Foundation, has worked with Jeff in Pennsylvania politics. So we were in the way back bus. And I worked closely with him on his confirmation. He actually called me today and to talk about this. So I could not be any more supportive. I think it's great that he's up there with Tammy and Ambassador Waltz. And
talk about a big job. Fix the UN. Holy
right?
Christmas.
It's a big job. But we stand by at Heritage. We actually have, both in our legal center and in the Davis Institute that I run, a number of specialists on international organizations in law, and they're already in touch and feeding ideas in. And so we're going to be front and center with Jeff, supporting him and Dr. Waltz and the whole team.
That is so reassuring to hear, because we need it. We really need it.
Maybe we even bring back those little boxes to put our money in.
I'll tell you.
Hey, Dr. Coates, thank you, my friend. Congratulations. I know you worked very hard on this behind the scenes as well, and have for many, many years, your advocacy. And, of course, the book to read, The Battle for the Jewish State, How Israel and America Can
I'm reading
Win.
that one tomorrow.
You got
I'm
it.
getting
It's
that book tomorrow.
It's a must-read. Dr. Victoria Coates, follow her on X at Victoria Coates, and I imagine she'll be all over Fox News tomorrow. Am I right?
I'll be on Laura tonight. I was on Varney this morning.
She beat you to the punch.
One up me always with that. She knows that one particular stumps.
I'm going to tune into that, too.
She knows that one in particular gets
I'll
me
tell
right
you.
here, but it's okay. Today you deserve
It's a competition.
Yeah, it really is. Dr. Coates, thank you, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Take care.